It was a good class defensively. The Bruins lose 7 starters on defense, and Mora did a good job of not only getting people to commit early, but getting them to stay. They had a couple players flip, but they were offensive linemen. The defensive players that he had early stayed put. Of course, the prize of the class is Jalen Phillips, who was a top 5 player by any analysis, whether it's Rivals, Scouts, or 24/7 Sports. 24/7 for a while actually had him as the #1 player in the country, regardless of position. He's a terrific defensive end, five-star recruit, was the MVP of the Army All-American game in San Antonio in January. And, my colleague at Last Word on College Football, Mike Laval, was down there covering the game for us and saw some of the practices and said there was no question that even with the game, even practices, Phillips was the best player on the field throughout the week. And UCLA got him last summer. And Phillips did what you hope any of your recruits do, which is go out and help get other players. And he did. He was constantly, I would see him on social media. I try not to follow, too many high school football players on social media because it'll drive me nuts. And we hope we have better things to do with our time most of the time. But you follow some of these kids who you think are going to be difference makers. And he went out and he helped recruit Darnay Holmes, the great defensive back from Los Angeles, from Calabasas. And Holmes committed to UCLA actually at that Army All-American game and signed that day and enrolled in school 2 days later. So, at UCLA, you've got to be able to get in academically, as is the case with most schools, but UCLA does not use much of a sliding scale for athletes. And so these kids had already been admitted. It was just a matter of accepting the admittance. And so Phillips and Holmes have both been in school already since early January. And UCLA's on the quarter system, so they've got 3 quarters. Kids are already in school, taking their classes, working out in the weight room. So that was a big get for both Mora and for Phillips, because Phillips is very responsible for bringing Holmes in.
Coaches always say they're happy with their recruiting class, and of course got everyone that they were targeting, because that has to be the deal. Because now that they're their team and their guys, and so of course they're always
you got who you got at this point. You got who you got at this point. He did a good job. Look, he got Greg Rogers, a defensive tackle out of Bishop Gorman in Vegas. Rogers is going to be very valuable. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you Google Greg Rogers commitment video. He actually committed back in mid-November, maybe late November. And, we used to watch these kids just say, yes, I'm committed. And then they go to signing day, right? They do the hats and they do all the little stunts. And Rogers actually had about a 3-minute produced video that was an homage to a scene from Goodfellas. And it was fabulous. You just watch and you just kind of grin, go, wow, and he had his mother with him throughout the video. It was just kind of like, all right, this kid's got some style going on through this. I'm usually not one for all the antics, but it was pretty cool. And so Rogers signed, officially signed yesterday. They didn't have anybody who was a last minute change or a last minute flip. I think if you're a UCLA fan, you would have liked to have seen them get a couple more wideouts, a couple more receivers. They had a real problem last year with, frankly, receivers just dropping the ball. I mean, you look at Rosen's stats through the 5 games that he actually played, and they were mediocre to good, depending upon which game it was. But if you go back and you actually watch the films and watch the games as intensely as I did, you see the fact there could have been so much more. He had at least 6 touchdowns dropped in the end zone in the 5 games he played. It was just painful to watch. And there was a lot of talent on the wide receiver side to be had. They had Theo Howard, who was a 5-star recruit that they signed the year before, a true freshman last year, who barely saw the field. So there was a lot of anguish amongst UCLA fans that let's give some of these kids a shot. This year, he didn't sign any receivers. And again, I think some UCLA fans probably would have liked to have seen 1 or 2, but none of the elite receivers that were left on the table in the last week or two had UCLA on their short list. So the fact that he didn't sign any yesterday came as no surprise.
His Twitter handle is Tony Bruins, so we don't have to speculate on his allegiance. It is Tony Siracusa.
Try and be objective.
From Last Word on Sports, Last Word on College Football to be specific. So take yourself right there to follow Tony and a number of great contributors that we see on a regular basis right here on Mark Rogers TV for the very best in college football coverage. Tony, we appreciate the time and the instant analysis today.
Mark, always glad to join you.